However, a significant children they want to an abortion that is either not truly voluntary or is the result of a lack of information about where they can obtain help. Every day, pregnant mothers are losing their children to abortion. About 12,000 mothers lose their child to an abortion each year in Minnesota, or about 230 per week. Most of these pregnant mothers, as the record in this case demonstrates, lose children they want to keep. Women's Life Care Center recognizes that no mother should lose her child to an involuntary or uninformed termination of her relationship, especially by the irrevocable termination by an abortion. The greatest obstacle WLCC faces in discharging our mission is Minnesota's abortion laws. These laws fail to provide any informed consent due process protections for mothers and encourage the coercion and deception to which they are subjected. We find, based on our experience, that the 14th Amendment due process and equal protection rights of pregnant mothers in Minnesota are destroyed by the implementation of Minnesota abortion laws and the law's delegation of the termination of the rights of pregnant mothers to abortion businesses, like the defendant, Planned Parenthood Minnesota, North Dakota, and Planned Parenthood North Central states. Women's Life Care Center works diligently and tirelessly to defend the 14th Amendment rights of the pregnant mothers who come to our facility. A total lack of protection of the rights of these pregnant mothers under Minnesota law presents difficult challenges for them and requires special diligence and effort by Women's Life Care Center in its efforts to assist and protect them. While Women's Life Care Center has had success in helping pregnant mothers to exercise their rights to keep their children, we do not have the legal power or authority to stop third parties from forcing or pressuring mothers to have involuntary abortions or to prevent abortion facilities from performing forced, pressured, unwanted, and uninformed abortions that destroy the mother's wishes and our efforts to help them. The court has the power to stop these involuntary or uninformed waivers and terminations of the mother's rights. Therefore, Women's Life Care Center is compelled to seek the intervention of the court to help protect our clients' rights. As a plaintiff, WLCC does not take the position in this particular case that every abortion is unconstitutional. It is the contention of WLCC and the other plaintiffs that every coerced, pressured, unknowing, and uninformed waiver of a mother's rights and subjection to an unwanted abortion are unconstitutional. It is absolutely essential that the court enter an injunction in this case, both a preliminary and permanent injunction. There is no other effective way to uphold the Constitution, protect one of the greatest rights a mother has, and prevent the unjust killing of a child a mother wishes to keep. Thank you. Thank you.
So you're going to hear now from Tanya Humphreys. Tanya is the lead counselor for post-abortive women at Dakota Hope, which is and other pregnancy help centers. After the mother's rights are violated, they have to clean up the mess created by Planned Parenthood and all of the abortion businesses. Tanya.
Program at Plaintiff Dakota Hope Clinic in Minot, North Dakota. Dakota Hope is a medical facility that helps protect the rights of pregnant mothers to keep their relationship with their child. Dakota Hope provides both pre-abortion counseling as well as post-abortive healing. I provide post-abortive counseling and healing. Over the past 10 years, I found that a majority of the women I counsel have been subjected to abortions in Minnesota, and virtually all of the women did not want their abortions. About 80 to 85% relate stories of being coerced or pressured into an abortion that they did not want. They wanted their babies. There simply is no protection for these mothers under current Minnesota law, and there is no semblance of informed consent process to protect the most important intrinsic right of these mothers' process. In my experience, these women always suffer trauma for the loss of their child. Many have recurring nightmares. The trauma is a result of the loss of their child. and being subjected to the act that conflicts with their deep instincts to protect and nurture their child. I myself was pressured into an abortion when I was 21 years old and personally know the trauma firsthand. When I learned that I was pregnant, I experienced joy and wanted to give birth and raise my child. However, my boyfriend empathetically demanded an abortion. I let everyone know that I wanted my baby. My mother demanded that I get rid of it. I was crushed, and I have never forgotten the words, "Get rid of it." My boyfriend was the one who called the abortion facility in St. Paul and scheduled a surgical abortion. The abortion clinic scheduled an abortion for me without ever speaking to me or knowing if I actually wanted one scheduled. I desperately needed just one person to help me. My boyfriend forced me into his car and drove me to the abortion facility. He stood next to me when the front desk gave me the forms to fill out. It was there at the front desk where there was no one to discuss what was going to happen, that I was compelled to sign the consent form for the abortion that I did not want. There was no counseling. No one discussed anything with me, and I had no one to tell that I wanted to keep my child. My boyfriend hovered over me the entire time. When I was called back to some sort of procedure room, I was given a drug that caused me to black out. I never got to speak with the doctor. After the abortion, it became traumatizing when I realized that the abortion had killed an existing human being. I suffered from suicidal thoughts. When I counsel post-abortive women today, I know exactly what they have experienced. One of the greatest rights any woman has in her life is the right to have and keep her child. That is a paramount right of a pregnant mother that must be honored and protected. That right is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, and it is a right that is violated every day in Minnesota. It is time for the courts to protect the rights of these mothers.
The plaintiffs in this case are exposing a tragic national scandal. In the record in this case, there's like 10 different experts who submitted reports and affidavits. One of them lists 83 documented cases where men murdered women because they refused to have an abortion. That is a national secret. The same experts cite to studies that show, in some instances, the number one cause of death, and in others, the leading cause of death of pregnant mothers is murder. The plaintiffs in this case are exposing all of that. I'll talk to you a little bit later, but right now I want to introduce Clara Munger-Boyer, who will tell you her experience. And Clara is preparing her own lawsuit against Planned Parenthood directly for the way that they violated their rights. And again, the constitutional issues in Clara's case are the same as those in the Women's Life Care Center. Clara Munger-Boyer.
Thank you. My name is Clara Munger-Boyer. I submitted a sworn declaration in the Women's Life Care Center under my maiden name, Clara Munger. I was married in 2024. In November of 2021, when I was 21 years old, I was subject to an abortion at Planned Parenthood Abortion Clinic in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. As a result of my experience, I have a deep sense of obligation to stand to assert my rights that were violated. and to help protect the rights of other pregnant mothers in Minnesota. In September 2021, I started dating a man who I shall refer to as Michael. In a couple of months, a pregnancy test was positive. When I found out I was pregnant, I was shocked and scared. I never thought I would be pregnant without being married, and I was embarrassed. When I told Michael that I was pregnant, he suggested an abortion. If Michael supported my keeping the baby, I would not have considered an abortion. At the end of November 2021, Michael and I called Planned Parenthood in Rochester, Minnesota to make an appointment. I was 7 to 8 weeks along with my pregnancy. When Michael and I called Planned Parenthood, I spoke to a representative who only discussed the dates which were available. When Michael and I arrived at Planned Parenthood abortion clinic in Brooklyn Park, I was given forms to fill out at the front desk. I was instructed to complete and sign them while I was in the waiting room. Among the documents I was told to sign was a consent for an abortion. We were required to pay Planned Parenthood even before I signed the consent. It seemed clear that Planned Parenthood just assumed. I walked in the door, and there was no need to go through any formal consent discussion or process. I followed their instructions and signed the nature of the abortion, or to what I was actually being asked to consent to. Not a nurse, not that Planned Parenthood proposed to terminate the life of my child, a whole, separate, unique, living human being. There was no discussion about my rights or obligations as a mother. In fact, the entire process was dismissive of any notion that there was anything of significance taking place. In actuality, I did not want an abortion at all. I want children. My circumstances made me feel trapped in considering abortion. At the abortion clinic, no one discussed the real nature of the abortion. No one asked how I felt about it. No one asked if I really wanted my child. The only thing one woman who met with me did was check to see if I signed the forms that were given to me. The abortion has haunted me ever since. It has caused me great pain. As a result of the abortion, I felt grief. Following the abortion, I ultimately realized I submitted to Planned Parenthood killing my child. I have been forced to live with the weight of that realization. I was forced to face the reality that the killing of my child was inherently immoral. I felt ashamed that I had sex outside of marriage, which caused me to consider an abortion without any real guidance, without genuine counseling, and without time to make a proper decision for myself or my child. Above all else, I'm extremely sad. I lost my child, and I miss him. Based on my experience, a mother losing her child is one of the most painful experiences in life. I ruminate about the baby who was aborted. I always see him as a little boy. I feel an emptiness and hollowness. There is a void where my baby should be. It is painful and at times depressing experience. The magnitude of the injustice to my child cannot be overstated. I have been angry with myself for giving in to the abortion. I have been angry at Michael. Whether it is truly rational or not, I have lived with the anger towards Michael because I wished he had never proposed an abortion and never encouraged me to submit to one. I am angry at Planned Parenthood because they are in the business of killing mothers' babies without remorse. Planned Parenthood never offered to help me and never even talked it through with me. I needed counseling and I needed to discuss some important facts, but both those facts and that counseling were withheld from me. I think I'm angry most with the Minnesota law and those who enforce it, that impose and promotes such injustice on mothers and their children. After the abortion and after the initial trauma I experienced, I have learned about some of the law that I never knew. It is a murder to kill an unborn child at any time after conception, and it is punishable by mandatory life imprisonment. If anyone, a counselor, anyone at Planned Parenthood, or anyone else ever took the time to discuss what was actually being proposed, I would have never had an abortion. I would have stood up to Michael and would have stood up for my child. If I had been told that the international killing of an unborn child at any age was a murder, and and it was so inherently evil as to require life imprisonment, I would not and would not have been subject to an abortion. No one discussed anything about the fact that abortion kills an existing human being. The protections of my rights in the life of my child provided by that Minnesota murder statute was withheld from both of us. I also learned that our federal constitution imposes a duty to protect the fundamental rights of all mothers, not just some, and must protect their rights to keep their children in and out of their mother's womb. I have lived through the death of my child, and I am compelled to stand up and object to the Minnesota law and all the actions of the state officials who enforce it, which create the immunity for certain individuals to kill a mother's child, conduct which is styled an abortion. The immunity is granted to a person who kills the child under the mantle of abortion, as long as they have certain licenses, such as a medical license or a nurse practitioner's license. Killing my child is not medical care. The grant of that immunity destroyed my opportunity to keep my child and the joy he would have brought to me. It violated my right to be protected by that murder statute. Worse, that immunity enforced by the state officials violated my child's right to the protection of Minnesota's murder statute enjoyed by other children in utero. The reality is that a pregnant mother considering to terminate her relationship with her child is probably the most profound and most critical decision a mother will ever make in life. That decision must be protected in a way that the law ensures that such a decision is completely voluntary, completely free of deception, and completely informed. With termination by abortion, that life-altering decision is forced upon us to make in the blink of an eye. The pain it inflicts lasts a lifetime. Considering the outcome and the magnitude of the loss to both the mother and child, the entire matter is too fast and too irreversible for a pregnant mother to adequately explore the best course. If a mother contemplates terminating her relationship with her child through an adoption, that pregnant mother has 8 to 9 months to explore the depths of her feelings, explore what help is available, obtain proper counseling, and test the level of support from her family. That mother even gets to hold her child to better understand her potential loss. That mother is also protected by a court which ensures that any termination of her rights is truly voluntary, and unlike abortion, the mother can't change her mind. That entire termination process is designed to protect a child's best interest, not just the mother's. Termination of the mother's relationship by an abortion not only fails to protect the child's best interests, it kills the child. I know I would have given birth if I had been properly counseled and had adequate understanding of the actual nature of the abortion. I know I would have kept my child if I had given birth. I lost my relationship with my child, and its place is deep suffering. These are my losses. My child's life is lost. My child's loss in his life is an unjust murder. I have a daughter now who is 6 months old. There is one further reality that must be acknowledged, which is of importance. I did not really want an abortion and would have welcomed help for me to resist it. More importantly, if an abortion was not legal, if abortion providers had not been granted immunity from prosecution, Michael would have never proposed an abortion, and I would have never thought about having an abortion. Mothers, especially pregnant mothers, have a natural instinct to protect the children they carry. The law must invariably protect the true rights of these mothers and children. It is time for the courts to acknowledge how the Minnesota abortion laws violate the true rights of pregnant mothers and the rights of their children, and I insist on strict due process protections.
Can you hear us? Yes. There's no substitute for the courageous woman who stepped forward. And just like Clara, to explain what happened to her and the magnitude of the loss. In this case, 29 women who lost their children to unwanted abortions signed affidavits. For forced to get an abortion. Women who were forced to sleep in bitter cold weather for night after night until they relent. And that one woman I'm referring to went to Planned Parenthood, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and she got on the phone and begged this man, crying her eyes out, begging him not to make her have an abortion. The clinic workers heard it and they did the abortion anyway. So we also have declarations from previous abortion clinic workers. You're going to hear from one of those, and you're also going to hear from one of the principals at an organization that services the ex-workers at abortion clinics who need their services. So they describe the horrors of what goes on in abortion clinics. And they describe the impact it has on them and how they themselves suffer from witnessing the grief and the horrors. And I want to introduce Myra Rodriguez. Myra is a former abortion clinic worker who is going to explain a little bit of that to you.
Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Myra Rodriguez. I worked for Planned Parenthood clinics for 17 years. At the time I left Planned Parenthood, I was the director of 3 Planned Parenthood clinics in Arizona, including director of a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic in Glendale, Arizona, where second trimester and late-term abortions had been performed. When I started working at Planned Parenthood, I thought I would be doing something good for women. Over the years, I accepted the rhetoric about a woman's right to an abortion. I became intimately familiar with all Planned Parenthood policies and procedures. All of the local Planned Parenthood affiliates were required to comply with policies and procedures dictated by Planned Parenthood Federation of America, located in New York City. Any deviations from these procedures, no matter how minor, had to be approved by the Planned Parenthood National Headquarters. Even deviations necessary to comply with local state laws required pre-approval of the national office. The policies and procedures were uniform at all local Planned Parenthood affiliates facilities through the country, except for the minor differences, if any, dictated by state laws and subsequently approved by PPFA, Planned Parenthood Federation. I work with PPFA National Headquarters. I have traveled to Washington, D.C., where I met Cecile Richards, the CEO of Planned Parenthood Federation of America, where we testify in front of Congress, lobbying Congress to keep funding the PPFA's abortion work. Planned Parenthood Federation certified that the federal funding it received will not be used for abortion services, despite the fact the funds were used to pay for the performance of abortions. I left Planned Parenthood in 2017 because I complained of the wrongdoings. I was fired for what I witnessed. What I witnessed was horrors and mistreatment of the pregnant mother I witnessed at Planned Parenthood. I had to undergo psychological therapy for a number of years. I also saw how the horrors of Planned Parenthood caused other workers to become depressed. Many needed therapy, and a number of workers had nervous breakdowns. About 725 former abortion workers have sought therapy through an organization known as Then They Were None, funded by Abby Johnson, a former Planned Parenthood abortion clinic manager. And Then They Were None was designed and intended to provide abortion workers a place to obtain needed help, including psychological therapy, once they leave the abortion industry. As a result of what I witnessed at Planned Parenthood, I couldn't sleep. I was awake most of every night. When I did sleep, I had nightmares. Because of the grief, crying, and psychological pain of the pregnant mothers who lost their children in abortion clinics, many hundreds of former abortion workers sought relief through And Then They Were None. The workers at Planned Parenthood were forced to push and sell abortions. If a pregnant mother was ambivalent, the clinic workers were trained, we were trained, to convince those mothers to have an abortion. No help was offered to pregnant mothers who want to keep their children. We were all taught to convince them that an abortion was the best thing and easy thing for them to do. Planned Parenthood will never tell the pregnant mother the names or addresses of pregnancy help centers where she could obtain help to keep her child. In fact, we will be immediately fired if we were to disclose those locations. Planned Parenthood Federation of America even distributed copyright pamphlets to its affiliates to give to mothers that contain a section entitled Warning, which states that pregnancy help centers lie to pregnant women. We were taught to tell the mothers that the people at the pregnancy health centers lied to women. They were not real people. Planned Parenthood did not want the mothers to go to a pregnancy health center where the mother will get help to avoid an abortion. I, in fact, remember that I used to tell women that they will coerce them to become Christians. In truth, it was Planned Parenthood who lied to women. I assisted in the performance of abortions for about 8 years. In 2016, I became the center director at Planned Parenthood's abortion clinic in Glendale, Arizona. I oversaw 3 different centers at the time, and I had an office in each location. I trained staff to perform ultrasounds to help guide the abortion doctors. It was in the last year in Glendale that I witnessed some of the greatest horrors. A majority of pregnant mothers cried. Their pain in losing their children was striking. In Glendale, a single Planned Parenthood doctor will perform as many as 45 abortions in a single day. There were as many as 30 surgical abortions performed in one day by the same physician. Abortions were performed 5 or 6 days a week, from Sunday through Friday. The doctors had no time to speak with the mothers, and the doctors did not know what women were ambivalent, which ones were being pressured, and which ones were actually wanted an abortion. The doctors drove 3 hours in a day to and from the abortion clinic. On many occasions, I saw a doctor start a late-term abortion by inserting laminaria and then see the pregnant mother state she didn't want the abortion. The pregnant mother would ask the doctor to stop, but in each instance, the doctor lied and told her that it was too late. The doctor would complete the abortion. Those doctors could have let those mothers have their babies, but they didn't. On one occasion, I was told that a baby was born alive at the facility. The mother did not know the baby was still alive, and even when she came out from under the sedative, she was not told. Instead, the doctor placed the living baby in a container and let the baby die. When a surgical abortion was performed, the dismembered body of the baby was sent to the parts room to be examined and reassembled in order to determine that the entire baby had been removed. We will have to find the baby's head, hands, feet, and other parts and piece them back together like a puzzle to be sure we didn't leave any of the babies in the mother's uterus. Piecing a baby back together was especially traumatizing for workers. I saw it many times in my dreams. The mothers were not permitted to see the dismembered babies. We were required to refer to the baby as a product of conception or the contents of the uterus. In fact, we were never allowed to use the word baby in that center. The baby was dehumanized to the mothers to whom we wanted to sell abortion. The workers got to see the humanity of these babies they were killed at Planned Parenthood. As we pieced the babies back together in the parts room, it was difficult not to dwell on how we lied to the mothers earlier and told them it was nothing but some tissue. In the recovery room, we saw the devastation to the mothers themselves. Women weeping, some saying they wished they didn't have the abortion and witnessing their despair. We were forced to see the devastating harm we inflicted upon them. I saw 2 different abortion clinic workers in Arizona who had nervous breakdowns. One nurse had a nervous breakdown from what she witnessed in the recovery room. I myself found it too painful to watch what went on in the recovery room. Many of the women were crying and distressed. Most of these women were suffering because they lost their child. We were trained to tell those mothers that it was normal to be sad because it only had to do with their hormones. We lied and it wore on me. At times I worked in the procedure room and I assisted with abortions. It was my experience in one of the rooms one day that led to me leaving Planned Parenthood in 2017. I had been speaking out about the abortions and I had witnessed. For one thing, I was a Title X employee manager and I was paid directly with the funds obtained by the federal government under Title X. Those funds were not supposed to be used for abortions. At that point, that it was what I did. Working in the procedure room, recovery room, and parts room, as well as training others to do the same. I felt guilty and I complained to my supervisor that we were breaking the law. I was chastised for mentioning it. We were in the procedure room. We would conduct an ultrasound and locate the baby's beating heart. We would turn the screen toward the doctor. We were not permitted to show the screen to the woman, so she was not permitted to see her baby, so she wouldn't cancel her abortion. If a pregnant woman was Rh negative, she needed to be administered Rogam, because without it, she was an increased risk to lose her ability to successfully carry a child in the future. If the mother couldn't pay for the medication, she was not given the drug and the abortion was performed anyway. One day, a doctor performed a surgical abortion on a mother who was little more than 12 weeks along, about 14. The surgical assistant tried to piece the baby back together in the parts room. She couldn't find the baby's head. I did an ultrasound on the woman after arguing with the abortionist, which showed that the doctor had left the baby's head in the mother's uterus. An IUD had already been inserted in the woman's uterus by the doctor positioned below the baby's head. That was gross malpractice. I told the doctor that the baby's head was still in the mother's womb and urged him to remove it before he left the clinic. The doctor resented my telling him, and he became angry. I wasn't sure if he would remove the baby's head, so I followed the patient to the procedure room to make sure the doctor removed the baby's head. I complained to my supervisor, and by the way, the patient was never told what happened, who got upset because I mentioned it. The doctor who left the baby's head in the mother's uterus became angry with me, and they had me fired. I was fired because I pointed out improper practices such as misusing federal funds, for asking a doctor to correct a dangerous condition. For other matters I brought to the attention of my supervisors in an effort to carry out my job. I hated myself for being part of what they did at Planned Parenthood. Because of my work at Planned Parenthood, I became depressed. I never slept. When I was the director of Planned Parenthood, I received calls at night, a week, about severe complications for abortions. They were kept as secret as possible. Sometimes received those calls at 3 a.m. After I left Planned Parenthood, I learned of the organization, and then there were none. Created the Help for Former Abortion Workers, founded an organized and former abortion worker who understood out our depression and trauma. Over 700 prior abortion workers are now members of that organization. That is the tip of the iceberg. Of those abortion workers who need that help, I took advantage of the psychological therapy the organization provides, and I have been in therapy, and now I am glad to work with them as the Global Outreach Director. Thank you.
So the record in this case is exposing this national scandal. Now, one of the things that was litigated previously and that resulted in a holding by an en banc court is that abortion places a woman at increased risk for suicide and suicide ideation. That has been established. In this case, there is an affidavit from the father of a beautiful college woman who hung herself following an abortion. And she left a note that said in part, "Now I can be with my unborn child." So we have next Nicola Morrison. Nicola works with And Then There Were None. That is the organization that was founded in the year 2010 to help all these former abortion clinic workers who needed the therapy, needed help, that had to come out. And the last count, I think about 725, I guess, yes, women have been helped by them. They are the tip of the iceberg. There are probably far, far, far more former workers. Some of those former workers gave affidavits in this particular case. 3 of them actually worked with one of the defendants in this case, Planned Parenthood, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. So I'm going to introduce Nicola Morrison.
Thank you, Harold.
Nicola.
My name is Nicola Morrison. I live in Texas. Since April of 2014, I have been a client advocate with And Then There Were None, ATTWN, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing support and counseling to abortion clinic workers who have suffered emotional and psychological harm because of their involvement in the abortion industry. I received a BA in psychology from California State University, San Bernardino in Southern California. I worked as an emergency medical technician for approximately 4 years, providing emergency care, and have worked as a psychometrist for a residential treatment center providing specialized education and medical services for severely emotionally disturbed minors aged 5 to almost 18 years old, conducting extensive psychological and neuropsychological testing, and helped assist patients with emotional regulation and positive behavioral support. I have a broad understanding of psychology and psychiatric disorders and how to support individuals who have sustained trauma or are confronting a personal crisis or emergencies. ATTWN was founded in 2010 and has assisted approximately 725 former abortion clinic workers. These are mostly women who worked at abortion facilities, and all were desperate to quit. Many became depressed over witnessing the abuse of pregnant mothers at abortion clinics. Many engaged in self-loathing for their participation in the harm inflicted upon the women. Currently, ATTWN has 14 paid staff members and 7 volunteers. Approximately 37% of ATTWN clients contact us while they are still employed at an abortion clinic. The remainder contact us after they have already left. Upon contacting us, clients are triaged by our dedicated intake coordinator, after which they are contacted by one of us client advocates who works with that client for the duration of her relationship with ATTWN. ATTWN provides counseling and helps clients transition into their new and healthier employment. Clients who want counseling can receive therapy from ATTWN's licensed professional counselor for as long as they want. ATTWN clients are also provided with access to private online support groups and can participate in all 3 phases of our 3-day healing retreats, which include transportation, room and board, and food. All our services are provided to our clients completely free of charge. Client advocates work one-on-one with each new former abortion worker client to help them access the support they need. Currently, ATTWN has 5 client advocates, including myself. To date, I estimate that I have served as an advocate for approximately 250 ATTWN clients. For the past several years, I have served as the lead client advocate responsible for updating the client advocate training manual, reviewing the record keeping of all client advocates, and training all new client advocates. My review of all client advocate documentation includes my review of all narrative summaries of those advocates' clients, so I have a general understanding of every client's background and experience. Once matched with a client, the advocate's priority is to identify the client's area of greatest need. The first meeting between the client and her advocate is usually the first time the former workers have discussed their experiences working at an abortion business with anyone outside of the abortion industry in great detail. Many report that they have been trained to be suspicious of people who do not work at abortion businesses and to avoid telling others about what they have seen and heard at their abortion clinic job. During these initial sessions, our clients are obviously traumatized, and they emotionally describe their feelings, their state of mind, the experiences that most distress them, and what caused them to leave the abortion industry. Client advocates ask open-ended questions to understand what they are experiencing and how we can help them. During this process, our clients open up to us and explain how they are feeling and why they contacted ATTWN. Almost all of the clients I speak with during that initial meeting are desperate for help and at a moment of deep personal crisis. Some verbalize the need for mental health support to their supervisors or HR departments to help them cope with their mental anguish and daily tasks. If anything is provided while they work there, they learn it is all about getting them aligned with the abortion business's mission. They are told to get with the program and to understand what they claim it is, normal health care, and they should not be so sensitive. They feel isolated and are discouraged from seeking further help or questioning the industry's practice. Most describe the culture and training within the abortion business as a type of brainwashing and quitting their abortion clinic job as similar to escaping a cult. These are the words they use to describe their own experiences. Typically, a single drastic event will compel the worker to leave her job. For many workers, this moment comes from their experience working in the products of conception room, otherwise known as the POC room, where the workers are required to reassemble the body parts of babies killed in abortions to ensure that no body parts remain in the woman following her abortion. Client advocates collect detailed information about our clients' work experience. In speaking with my ATTWN clients, several common themes are emotionally shared about their experiences working at abortion clinics that led to them feeling that they had to leave the abortion business. The most prevalent shared experience is the emotional and psychological harm our clients have suffered as a result of working at an abortion business. Approximately 84% of our clients report that their work at an abortion business negatively impacted their home life. Nearly 2/3, about 62%, of our clients experience symptoms meeting the clinical criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. Approximately 62% of our clients had difficulty sleeping, with many women experiencing recurring nightmares. Roughly 20% of our clients report using drugs or alcohol to cope with their stress and help them fall or stay asleep. Some have nightmares in which the babies confront them for their role in their deaths. One of the main causes of the emotional distress our clients experience is witnessing how pregnant mothers are treated at abortion clinics. Just about all of my clients report that they started working at an abortion clinic because they thought they would be helping women. Their experiences, however, demonstrated that the mothers were exploited for financial gain and that the abortion businesses didn't care about the mothers at all. Many of my clients have described witnessing the trauma suffered by the women at the abortion clinic, telling me that it was the main reason they felt compelled to leave their employment. They couldn't bear to be part of it anymore. They have described the recovery room as especially solemn and depressing, relating that the women are despairing, in deep grief, and openly crying. I have been told that even the rare woman who seems stridently pro-abortion when she enters the abortion clinic is undeniably distressed and depressed when observed in the recovery room. One ATTWN client described the recovery room as the saddest place in America. These women in the recovery intuitively understand what they have lost. Our clients also report that they are not permitted to provide any help or resources to pregnant mothers who want to keep their children. It is not uncommon for our clients to explain that they were reprimanded for providing information to mothers about resources that could help them keep their children. Some were fired for providing that information. Our clients also report that the abortion clinics are careful to create an environment where pregnant mothers cannot reflect upon the joy their child can bring. Abortion clinic employees were instructed to rip out any pages in the waiting room magazines which contained pictures of babies and depictions of happy family life. Photographs or artwork showing a mother pushing a young child on a swing or walking her baby in a stroller were removed so that the pregnant mothers would not see them. Many ATTWN clients explain that it is common for women to be pressured or coerced into having abortions they don't want. One client described a situation where a pregnant mother was resisting her boyfriend's demands to have an abortion. He sent her to the abortion clinic 3 times, but she found a way to leave without having an abortion. Her boyfriend, however, kept sending her back until she finally gave up and succumbed to the abortion. ATTWN clients reveal that it is not just boyfriends and parents who coerce pregnant mothers to submit to abortions. Approximately 36% of our clients report witnessing instances when the pregnant mothers were victims of sex trafficking. The men trafficking the women force the abortions, and the abortion businesses accommodate them. Sometimes it is the abortion clinic staff itself that force these mothers to have the abortions they do not want. About 31% of our clients have witnessed the performance of a forced abortion where a pregnant mother has expressed that she does not want to proceed with the abortion, but the abortion clinic staff make her follow through with the procedure anyway. Some of our clients have reported that they have witnessed pregnant mothers being physically restrained so the abortion can be performed against their will. ATTWN clients explained in detail how the entire process at the abortion clinic where she worked was designed to push the women through as quickly as possible. There is little to no opportunity for the pregnant mother to ask questions and describe the informed consent, and they describe the informed consent process as a joke. Our clients frequently report that pregnant mothers will ask about the development of the child they are carrying, only to be misled by being told that it is a mesh of cells or just some tissue. One ATTWN client observed that if the pregnant mothers knew what was going to happen, they would never submit to the abortion. Several of my clients have told me that they were provided with scripts which they were trained to use to overcome any objections to proceedings with an abortion that might be voiced by the pregnant mother at the clinic. ATTWN clients also commonly report that the clinics do whatever they can to increase the number of abortions performed. Our clients have described occasions where they receive bonuses for persuading ambivalent pregnant mothers to submit to an abortion. Our clients have informed us that they were rewarded with perks if they kept the abortion numbers high. Nearly half of our clients, approximately 49%, advised that they were aware that the abortion clinic where they worked had quotas for the number of abortions to be performed. I have had clients tell me that they were rewarded if they hit their target abortion for the day.
So this case that's being brought by all these courageous women, the pregnancy help centers and all the women who run it, the women who are stepping up, like Clara, telling their stories, the former abortion clinic workers. This is a woman's movement that says it's time for this country to grow up and to recognize what it's been doing. So let's hear it for the women. So if anybody has any questions for anyone here, you may ask them. Yes.
I thought Abby Johnson's and then there were none. Does she also help find employment? That's what I thought they were starting to talk about health.
Yes, ma'am, that is a major thing that we do. I've worked with her for 11 years now, and I started as a volunteer. We were just getting started, and I said, what is the number one thing you want me to do as I help you? And she said, let's find them new employment. So I have actually become really good at finding jobs. We also have a professional resume writer that works with us. And so he writes the resumes, edits the resumes, and the feedback we hear from our clients is that their resume looks so good when they applied for new jobs. Those client advocates found for them that their resume was put at the HR departments at the potential jobs say that their resume looks so good they put it at the top of the stack. So we don't stop until we find them new employment.
Anyone else?
When will a decision be made as a result of today?
Okay. So procedurally, there was a motion today. The defendants moved to dismiss the complaint. There is no legitimate basis to dismiss it, but it's possible, maybe even likely, that the district court will. We will probably get an opinion in maybe 2 weeks. I shouldn't say it was likely, it's possible. But that's my guess. If the court grants their motion, we'll be in the upper courts right away. We'll be in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 8th Circuit, which is based in St. Louis. If she denies it, then there's a motion that we filed that the court will have to hear, and it's for a preliminary injunction. And then we'll have to wait to see what the court will do with that. But in any event, this case will be decided in the upper courts. We will be in the U.S. Court of Appeals, and of course, there's always a chance that we could wind up in the United States Supreme Court. We could be, depending on how the court rules, we could be in the Court of Appeals within 2 months, or we could be in the Court of Appeals in about 6 months. One way or the other, we probably will be up there. There is a chance that the case could be litigated for 1.5 years to 2 years before it gets up there. Okay? But we'll have to wait and see. But the case is going to be won and lost in the upper courts, in all likelihood. But any other questions? Yes?
I just wanted to thank you ladies for sharing your stories. I can see the pain in everybody's eyes when they're telling that story. I just want to give you all a big hug. But thank you for doing that. It means a lot. Keep on telling it. So, thank you.
Courageous women work in this case. Okay, thank you for coming.
Tara, talk about where your website is so people can go and look at the case. Stop.
So there is a website that was created for this case. The name of it is stopcoercedabortions.com. You can obtain some material on there. Some of the affidavits are going to be put on shortly, some of the briefing, and you can always access it. Okay?
Is this
It's on Rumble.
it's on Rumble?
Yeah, with Alpha News.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I appreciate it. But is this press release or press conference, it's going to be on Rumble without?
It's on Rumble right now. It's
Oh.
live streamed right now. So
All
it
right.
should be
Awesome.
on Alpha News.
All right, okay, perfect.
How can we of all of you. Because I work at a pregnancy resource center, and I'll tell you, just listening to your stories just makes me want to do my job so much more. So much better.
Where's your center?
We are in Stillwater, Minnesota.
Okay, remind me where that is for a minute.
We're right
Outside.
We're on the east side of Minnesota and right on the border of Wisconsin, so we get a lot of women
Oh, yeah,
out
yeah,
of
I can picture
Wisconsin.
it.
We're not in the inner city, so we just get, you know, normal women who.
Don't touch it, Carol, don't say a word.
We get women from all walks of life. And, anyways, thank you for working.
Well, if you give me your number, I'll be happy to talk to you. You may have information that might be helpful.
Okay.
We're always happy to take any additional information. We don't know if it can be used, sometimes it can be. So you'll give that to me before you leave. Anyone else?
I have one here. With the law knocking down the payment to Planned Parenthood, that should affect everybody. Hopefully, they can go out of business, put it that way.
Not exactly what will happen. What the question is, what the comment is that the Congress just passed a law that the funding for Planned Parenthood for the next 12 months will be stopped. It has been challenged and stayed, but we don't know where that's going to all go. But we need the law, the real law recognized, the real rights of the mothers, and that'll put them out of business. Anyone else before we stop? Yes.
Can you tell us how you came into this lawsuit, your part of it, as far as what made you decide to go this route?
You have like an hour?
I did a lot of different work. You're not going to get a direct answer, but I will say this. I did a lot of different work in my lifetime. I shouldn't say this, but I've been practicing for 50 years. That's half a century. I came into the profession to do justice. And I only took cases that I believed in. I had to be convinced that I was on the right side of the issue, whether it was a criminal case, a civil case, whether it's constitutional issues or not. I'll just leave it like this. In maybe 45 years ago, I was still a little bit younger, women started coming to me because they lost their children against their will in adoptions. And I saw the pain. No one, I was invited and went to their support sessions, and I sat there and listened to them, sitting around a table, one after another, women who lost their children 10 years earlier, 15, 20, bawling their eyes out. You couldn't sit through that without being impressed with the pain of a mother losing a child that she wants. I became a lawyer for a national organization. If women came to me soon enough, I got their babies back for them. I did a lot of stuff in the practice of law, won a lot of cases, established some law. Nothing gave me more pleasure than putting the baby back in the arms of the mother who wanted her. That led to the surrogacy. Women being subjected to these, being exploited by surrogacy contracts. And in most cases, not every one, but in most, I was able to reestablish the mother's relationship. Then women started calling me because they were forced to have an abortion. And I couldn't get the babies back for them because they killed the babies. So when you're faced with that, you have to decide, are you in the business of justice or not? Anyway, it's not about me, it's about them.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you asked the question. Yes.
I know a lot of really good men. I feel like we can't put down that there aren't good men out there. What is there in to take this momentum and let them put their arms in ours, lock arms, and lead away? What is there part of that website or something that could be for men only or something like that, or some?
Abortion was created by men for men. It is an accommodation of the exploitation of women. So we do need some of the women. They created the problem, and I was, as a young man, in a lot of men's locker rooms, so I know. So we will need a few of the men. We need the women to stand up for themselves. We do need some of the men to help undo the damage that they did. Anything else? Yes.
I disagree with that a little bit, just because I stand out in front of Planned Parenthood and I've seen many men out there crying. Nothing against you young ladies, because I also work with women that are post-aborted, but I see men crying. So I think we do a disservice to the men who are out there who don't have a choice. Not to say what you're doing. I think if we get those that are hurt and wounded from abortion, locking arms with the other men that are hurting from abortion, that they didn't have a choice ever, they found out after. I think that's very important to at least articulate, maybe not in this case, but I think that's very important, because I also work with men who've lost children as well.
So, the very first case, abortion case, that I was involved in was for a man who called me on a Friday night because his girlfriend was going to have an abortion scheduled for Tuesday. Okay? I know there are such men. And in fact, in that particular case, ironically, I worked all weekend, and on Monday morning I got an injunction. Extraordinary. Because Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. And it went up on appeal, and the Court of Appeals in my home state, this was a state court, entered an order reversing the trial level court, but staying it, so that the injunction stayed in force to give everybody an opportunity to go to the New Jersey Supreme Court, which of course we did. Okay? It turns out the woman had the abortion. What I later learned was that the lawyers who represented her had her stay at their house to be taken to an abortion clinic, okay, after they got the original ruling from the Court of Appeals, and even though the stay was in place, they took her to the abortion clinic and had the abortion, even though there was an order saying it couldn't be done. Okay? As irresponsible as this sounds, that man got that same woman pregnant a second time.
Oh my gosh. And then what?
She scheduled another abortion. So he took to her all of the expert affidavits we had, which included Jerome Lejeune, the famous Parisian human geneticist, and others. And she saw what was laid out, and she bawled her eyes out and said, "They told me that you were lying, that this was nothing but some tissue." And when she saw it, she canceled the abortion and wound up calling me, asking for a meeting, and asked me to sue her lawyers for her. Which I didn't do, because I felt I was conflicted. But yes, I know such men. Are we done?
No, this is so good.
You want to wrap it up? Everybody want to wrap it up?
One quick point. And somebody asked, what can you all do? Get the word out. Education. The mainstream media hasn't touched this.
No, of course not.
Okay? We have social media. Get a hold of everybody you know. Send them the website. This is it. I heard all the gas. I've read every document that's been filed, and my wife can attest. It kills me every time while I was reading them. But nobody knows about it.
No.
Nobody knows. Very few people know. The mainstream media is not going to say anything. This is a press conference. Who's here? Okay.
We're here.
Well, I understand. But who's not here is what I should say. Okay. So get the word out.
By the way, that is Hal. He is one of the lawyers in the case, and he's actually from Minnesota. And in the back of the room is another one of the lawyers on the case, Joseph Zachary. Joe, where are you?
He might have just stepped out. Oh, there he is.
That's Joe Zachary. And we have someone who is deeply involved in a prayer effort, Oscar Delgado.
So legally, media-wise, I mean, we have the facts on our side, but we all know, most of us know, that it's only through prayer that we're going to win.
Yes.
So we know that. So we put up a prayer campaign. Harold went to Mexico and prayed, or Lady Guadalupe, and been praying. It's a prayer that it's in English and Spanish. So I got a bunch of them to give out. So obviously, he's going to want prayer first, then action. I debate him, but that's the truth.
I'm sorry I introduced him. Anybody else? You all want to go home now?
I just have a quick question, because I know a lot of the women here were connected with Pregnancy Resource Center. So in your brief or whatever it's called, you said, I think you have 29 women. Well, would it make it stronger to have hundreds of women? Don't we all know lots of women in our business that feel like that, that have stories to tell? Just wondering how that.
We always want to hear from women, yes, always. Any woman who is in a position capable of talking about it. Anybody else before we wrap up?
I'll stand for the guys. I know a man personally, right here. Tom Keene is my buddy. He wrote a book, I Regret My Abortion, and on the page is his picture carrying a cross, and he now has a family of 8 and regrets that personally. And it's a testimony, it's true. So there are men that regret what goes on.
I just have wondering if I could get some clarification from the ladies who work at a pregnancy resource center on the panel. How much do your services cost? Zero.
What was your question?
It's right here.
I just wanted to get clarification from the ladies who work at the pregnancy resource centers how much their services cost to the women that come in. And the answer was 0. And I just want to get clarification from the women that had to have abortions. Did your services cost $0? No. Yeah, Planned Parenthood or the abortion clinic charged. Yeah, just wanted to get clarification on that. Thank you so very much.
Okay. Why don't you thank the women we have here?